Imagine for a moment a world without art, without dance, opera, literature, poetry. That world would be a very, very dull place.
Today on the show, we have Russ Adams, an award-winning special effects artist, familiar worldwide audiences for his for his work on Jim Henson's Creature Shop Challenge, the highly rated sci-fi channel reality series. But Russ has a long career working on special effects, both as a supervisor and a fabricator. He has worked on the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and he is also the author of a how-to book series, as well as This Is Not That Show, a book chronicling his life before, during, and after the Creature Shop Challenge. Now he owns and operates Escape Design FX Studio, and his latest book is Surviving Reality, This Is Not That Show. All his books are available on Amazon. Russ, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you spending some time for me today.
Anytime. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely, because I don't know. I love talking to fellas like you because I don't know. I feel like in this time of division in our country, the one thing people can always kind of revert back to, even if they're still arguing, is pop culture, is movies, is the American art form, right?
Well, it starts a whole different level of argument and division.
Yeah, but all that's good humored, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know, who was the worst Batman? Clearly that was, Adam West.
Yeah, for sure. No one wants to go there. No one ever wants to go there. But
Dude.
Come on, the man had shark spray, and he knew that he danced the Batusi.
I know. I had a little party when I found out that he had passed. That was just me. You do what you. Yes, there's always going to be division.
Well, I would ask you though, because okay, he's definitely one of the worst Batmen, and so is George Clooney. Terrible Batman.
Yeah.
But I really love George Clooney's Bruce Wayne. Now, where would you rank Adam West Bruce Wayne, just on the pure, Playboy debonair Bruce Wayne-esque?
I gotta be honest, I don't even remember him playing the Bruce Wayne role. I mean, aside of it, I just remember how pathetically train wrecked the Batman was, and because of that, the stink overshadowed everything else. It was just, and you'll get those arguments. It'll be like, it was supposed to be campy, blah blah blah. Well, Batman is a serious character. Don't screw with Batman, and he did. He paid the price.
Yeah. He goes down as the worst Batman. I mean,
In my opinion.
I'll go ahead and say at least he didn't have the bat nipples going against him.
Okay, yeah, there was that. I don't really understand why we had to have bat nipples, but at least in George Clooney's defense, George Clooney always just plays George Clooney, so it's not like he was trying to be, and Val Kilmer took a bit of a hit because he was trying to be Michael Keaton as Batman and Bruce Wayne, and at least he was trying to keep it, the way Michael Keaton and Tim Burton had, recreated everything.
Right.
And he took some heat for that, but then there's George Clooney who comes in. I'm just George Clooney, I'm just.
Man, and like Burton's Batman was a wild card too. Like Burton's Batman had no problem blowing up a chemical factory, like none whatsoever. It just needs to be done.
Wasn't an environmentalist kind of guy,
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe Wayne Enterprises had a way to clean that stuff up. We don't know. I mean.
Right. He just wanted that location for his new plant. So he's like, no, I'm just going to bomb it as Batman. We'll buy it up on the cheap. Win-win. Exactly. Man, they probably got a hell of a subsidy for that, too.
Really?
So I guess as a fabricator, let me ask you: do you ever have the ability or the chance to maybe, correct some of the mistakes some producer or director wants? Like prime example, if the director came to you and said, "Yeah, I want to put bat nipples on this suit," what are your thoughts? You think, big, small? I mean, like, would you have the ability to kind of like whisper some good counsel and be like, Supermen don't need nipples?
I mean, how big is the areola? I mean, what are we getting here? Are we talking like, saucer, size, or, quarter, what, you got to define it. And I think once you start asking questions like that, they start to realize, okay, yeah, that might have been stupid. But basically, you just do what you're told. I mean,
Yeah.
in the end, you have to divorce yourself from the artistic elements that would make it your own. Because it'll never actually be your own. It's always going to be somebody else's. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's where, like, working more in like the indie scene gives you a little bit more freedom, you know what I mean? Because primarily working with these with these smaller productions, I mean, you have to be a lot more creative in how to find solutions at
Yeah.
at a low cost.
In that respect, yeah. But you'll still run into the same, you know, exhausting, breakdown of a character. I was working on a project, and I'm not even going to say the title, but I was working on a project where we had just completed, not only we had approval on the design, we had approval on the character sculpture. Then we
Mhm.
went to mold, and usually when you go to mold, hey, there is no turning back. And then I was in the middle of pouring the silicone for this project. Like, I swear to God, I had just mixed A and B together and I was pouring it into the mold. And I get a phone
What?
call from a friend of mine who was a producer on the film. And he's like, we just changed directors and he has a whole different concept for the character. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, this
Yeah,
is like,
yeah.
it's too late. It's like less than, we had something like 3 or 4 weeks to create and develop this character, and now we have less than a week to do all of that work again. And so I start talking to the director, and we do 36 different drawings. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're looking for. He's like, I want a big toothy grin, but I don't want it to smile. And at that point, I came unhinged, and I was like, throwing out like F bombs. What the hell does that mean? Explain to me how the hell you can
Big
have a big
toothy
toothy grin without smiling. And I finally drew my last drawing, and whether it was fear or whatever, they took that particular concept and we ran with it. But oh my God, there's no escaping it. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
whether it's a
yeah,
Hollywood production or a little bitty production. You get art directors, and I use that in air quotes. You get art directors, you get directors and producers that think that because they've given themselves those titles, that now they're exhaustively brilliant in everything that they do. And their vision will come to life for the low, low price of $150. So,
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I guess you could, like, if you were doing like some sort of like, body horror movie, right? Like, you could probably, put the teeth all over the face, so it's not technically a grin. But I mean, if they have a specific idea or it's a specific kind of character, like, you got to have at least some sketches of your own planned out. Like, you have to
yeah.
be able, before you even bring it to someone to actually put it down, you have to have some concepts.
And yeah, usually, I mean, they'll bring an idea and then you'll do a bunch of drawings. But like in this particular case, we had done 3 or 4, I think, actually, no, I think we did about 6 drawings,
Mhm.
and they were like, hey, yeah, we finally got this. But when they swapped it up, or switched out this guy, it was suddenly 36 drawings later, we still hadn't come to an agreement on what this character should look like. And it
Yeah.
was so far removed from the original character that, it was like, it was night and day. It wasn't even close to the same character. So it's, yeah, you have like very little freedom in the creative, part of this particular line of work.
Right.
It sounds like, hey, look, you got to work on Aquaman, or you got to work on, which a couple of my friends did, and they made some suits and stuff, and
Yeah, yeah.
they're proud of that work, but they have no control over what those things need to look like, and you're at the whim of essentially a madman who calls himself the director, the art director, or it's just,
Well, I guess let me ask you, which one would you prefer to work with? Like, do you like doing, the more chaotic, low budget indie stuff, or do you like the ability to, work with a big studio where they already have the design sketches, everything pretty much planned out for you already, so you can just knock them out lickety split?
that's a nice aspect. It's kind of like, it's a juggling thing. I like the chaos
Mhm.
of the indie film. I like the fact that some of these guys don't plan ahead, and
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
call you 2 weeks before principal photography starts, and they want a whole character. The problem is with that chaos and with that crazy, you don't get the paycheck. So with the Hollywood productions, you get the paycheck sometimes, because I've worked on some Hollywood projects that I still have yet to be paid, for my work, and it's been close to 17, 20 years. There's no way in
Wow.
hell I'm ever going to see that paycheck. You know, and they don't really think of it. They're like, oh, it was 5,000, 6,000 bucks. What do we care?
Yeah,
They don't
but
realize
to
that.
an independent small business owner like yourself, like that's a payday.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so, but it's not worth fighting over either, because,
No,
you
well, no,
know,
you wouldn't have the resources to take a company like that to court.
and it's not even just the resources. It's the fact that you get labeled as a problem child. You didn't get paid for the work you did, but you're the problem child. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some aspects that are difficult to work with on both ends, but they both have their rewards. There's nothing more exhilarating than seeing your name in the credits. You know who the hell is in the film industry of
Mhm.
some form or another. When the movie ends, the credits are rolling and they're still in their seats. They want to see their name come down, or somebody they knew worked on it. You want to see it come down, and there's nothing cooler than seeing your name on those credits as they roll down. So, you know, that's another benefit of the big Hollywood productions. But you also get lost in like hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of other people's names, especially if it's like a big what is it, CG movie. I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, there could be like 10,000 artists that work on a CG film. I mean, the next time, you get bored, check out the credits rolling for something like a Pixar movie, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just like, what? And then there's another language that it's rolled in, and it's like, you get lost. But if you can find it with a magnifying glass, your name is in there. So
Yeah, and I don't know, I always found that transition strange. That shift from like practical effects to complete CGI action scenes, because I mean, some CGI is very well done, but I don't know, I've always been of the mind that I prefer the practical effects, probably because, that was the era of movies that I came up with, watching stuff from
yeah,
like the 80s and the 90s. I mean, that some of the stuff of like, Clive Barker, Steve Wang, like some of these guys have
Steve,
some
yeah.
phenomenal work out there, man.
Oh yeah, like Steve is like a god. I mean, I've actually gotten to meet him a couple of times, and
Really?
yeah, it was like one of the few times I was a babbling idiot talking to somebody, you know, and yeah, he's just a masterful individual. But yeah, when CG and practical come together on an equal plane is when you usually get your best work done and the best product out. Um, is my favorite subject to use as a point of example. Let me think. So the two, I want to say it was, so back to Tim Burton. He
Mhm.
came out with the Planet of the Apes reboot, and that was all makeup. That was all
Oh, yeah.
practical effects makeup.
Yeah, yeah,
But
no, that
then
makeup was phenomenal.
exactly. But then Wyatt comes out with the second version, not the version or the second aspect of that particular new reboot, and everything is digital, everything. And while you're watching a movie, if there's something in your brain telling you something just doesn't look right, but you can't tell what it is,
Yeah.
you've been taken out of the movie enough that it's no longer, you're no longer glued to the screen. There's something that's wrong, and it's your brain is working on that instead of enjoying the movie. So it was like way CG high, but then I think there was just enough CG work in that first reboot of Planet of the Apes that you know made it a good movie. I think it was a really good balance. But
Yeah,
like Tim
yeah.
Burton's always been more of a practical effects guy. So you know, I don't know. I can't really say for because I'm kind of biased. Because
Yeah, yeah,
there's no
absolutely.
way I could do CG stuff. It would drive me insane.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I like it when they use practical effects and then they just use the CGI just to touch it up a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
did you see that movie came out last year, I believe, Color Out of Space?
I haven't. No.
Oh, that would you, dude. You'll dig that when you see it. There's a scene where there's like it's definitely inspired by Carpenter's The Thing, but the entire like puppet that they built, like it's all practical effects, but they just use the CGI to spruce it up a little bit, so you see like little like discolorations and veins popping and stuff. And
Yeah,
like that's how I like to see CGI used, not complete characters, but just enough to give them a little bit more definition.
exactly. Like the mess around with the Iron Man suit and stuff. How
Yeah, yeah.
some version of it was real and some versions were completely CG, and then there was a little bit of a mix. The thing that I actually like about that is the things that we would like to do as practical effects artists that we're told sometimes is cheaper to do CG
Mhm.
kind of drives me nuts because it's not necessarily cheaper and it's not necessarily faster. It's and cosplayers prove this on a regular basis.
Oh
I've
yeah.
seen cosplayers take an Iron Man suit and make those gadgets open that would normally be relegated to CG stuff, you know, and they make that work in the real world and looks just as cool with the lighting effects and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
else.
yeah.
And so it can be done. The problem that you get into a lot of times with CG is it used to be back in the day the CG was actually the cheaper way to go, so that's why people were pushing more for the CG stuff. But now it's so expensive, and it's actually limiting in the way that if you have a scene and you've got it programmed out the way it's supposed to look, if a director needs to change anything, on the fly, you really can't. I mean, even though that's done after the fact, I mean, you really can't because
Right,
it
right.
has to be sometimes within the timing of the camera and everything else. Whereas with practical, you just set up for the next shot, and you've got a three-dimensional, character that you're working with, whether it's a animatronic puppet or it's an Iron Man suit or whatever.
Hmm.
You know, and practical is faster, and it's also it's less expensive in the long run. Um, we did this series of commercials for Colorado. It was for their wildlife conservation. It was called Hug the Hunter. It was a program for this Hug the Hunter program about wildlife conservation and stuff. And they wanted
Yeah,
us to build this deer because the deer that they were looking at having done, it would have been CG, and it would have been tens of thousands of dollars. Whereas for me, it was like $8,000, and I did it on their timetable, which was something like 2.5 weeks. I had two and a
yeah,
half weeks to put this damn deer together. And it was matter of fact, I don't know if you've been on my Facebook page. It was I recently had it posted a little video of the photos. It was like a slideshow
yeah, yeah.
of the deer's progress, throughout. So I
Oh,
was
I'm
just
gonna have to go
recently
back and
posted,
check that out. I didn't see it,
but
but I don't. I find it like super interesting when you get to see like the interior work of like animatronics and the such, because that's the
yeah,
stuff that always interested me is how you could actually build it and get these things to move in certain ways. And I mean, I don't know. That's the one thing I love about practical effects is that it's like that perfect mixture of traditional kind of like sculpting and art and science when it comes to the
yeah.
animatronics. You really have to be a man of two minds to be able to engage in it.
You really do. There's so much chemistry involved with the chemicals that we
Oh
use. There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much, oh my God, algebra. I failed algebra. I can't even tell you how many times in high school, to the
Mhm.
point where I just stopped taking it and I found a way around it in college, you know. but I use algebra every damn day, in what I do. And it's funny that I can make it work in my particular need. I
Mhm.
can make those formulas work, but if you put the math problem in front of me, I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, well, that's giving you a practical application of it, man. Because I think that's the reason why I was so bad in math is that geometry, man, that was the only math that really resonated with me because I could think of it in terms of like shooting pool or something,
Yeah.
or building a shed, something along those lines. Like it had a practical application. But I mean, algebra and some of those more abstract maths. I mean, if I can't see how I'm going to use it every day, that I'm not going to engage with it or it's not going to have that same weight that it should with other folks. But, once you found that practical application, like your mind just automatically just snapped into place.
Oh, it does, I mean, and when I come from an odd a bag of family members, like my uncle used to do trigonometry for fun. And
What?
yeah, dude, he was like he was one of the vice presidents of Boeing, worked on the Star Wars program.
Oh,
He
wow.
yeah, I mean, he was just this big guy when it came to, NASA and all that stuff. And, you know, and then you've got me who can do something similar but without the math. it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like we're building things like robotic pieces and stuff. I don't have his mind for math, but he didn't have the mind for the creativity and the art form,
Right.
so that he would team up with those people. So it's just, I guess everybody compliments everybody else. So
Man, it's so interesting because, like, I don't know, I think the Star Wars program is one of the things that, I mean, if you haven't researched it, definitely give it a Google. It's a super interesting fake deep space project that was going on, which I don't know, the way I look at it, I believe was more of a cover for, trying to get satellites in the air than anything else and starting to establish
yeah.
these networks.
To this day, well, he passed away a couple of years ago, but I could never get him to talk about it. The only thing and it made me, I don't know how old you are, but this, this is obviously going to date me, but he was working on the program with Dan Quayle, who was, vice president at the time. And, the vice president's usually the head of NASA, those particular programs and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
And he would tell us how brilliant Dan Quayle was, and I would just be laughing hysterically. You mean the guy who can't spell potato? I mean, no one's going to remember that because it was so many decades ago, But yeah, that was about all I ever really heard about it, was how brilliant Dan Quayle was.
Man, maybe he just had a mind for trigonometry.
Well,
You know?
maybe, because as much as I loved my uncle, he was a brilliant guy. He just had no common sense. Like some of the things that he was like, no, I don't think it would work like that. Love him to death, but from what I remember, the common sense was, was lacking. But he liked
Yeah,
it.
I mean, that's the way intelligences are, though. You know what I mean? Like people only have so much ability to interpret information, and some people, I'm sure you're the same way. You incorporate things and you learn things kinetically. Like you have to be able to run through
Oh
it and
yeah,
try something out once or twice before you get the hang of it. But other folks, if they're just visual learners or like your uncle, just mathematically minded, you're able to see patterns and like put stuff together. I mean, certain other types of intelligences, it's like I kind of look at it like water in a jar, right? You only have so much jar space for water.
exactly. And I wish they would have shown aspects of that on the Henson show or the Creature Shop,
Hmm.
because nothing rarely did anything go together like that. Like when I was working on that bird with Bobby, I think we called it Lady Caca. Um, there was so many different, like we worked on this crane thing to help suspend it and give it this natural bounce. That went out the window. We would shorten the crane, and it was just, I had this stupid, rig on, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was just, and then there was working with the trash creature, where we were trying to, was like, oh, first it's going to be a tail, but then you couldn't get the damn tail to work, so we moved the legs, and then how are we going to suspend the legs, and it was just there was a lot of, it was like R&D on the fly, and I wish they would have shown. more of that on the show. Less of the fake drama and more of that stuff. So
Yeah, that's
um,
always been my complaint with reality shows is that I get it, drama sells. I mean, look at every major news outlet. They know what they're doing with drama. And they don't focus on the technicalities of it, right? Like it's kind of like Bear Grylls versus Survivor Man. Like Bear Grylls is going to give you a lot of dumb action and drama, but like if you really want to learn how to survive in the desert, Survivor Man's the way to go because he'll
yeah.
actually teach you something. And
Well,
yeah, I wish more reality TV was educational like that.
I feel like Les is the regular man, Survivor Man. He's the regular guy,
Yeah,
whereas Bear is more of the showman. Even though he's got the military background to prove his worth and stuff,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you're always waiting to see what disgusting ass thing that he's going to put in his mouth. It's like,
Yeah, that's why people are watching. Like, what's he gonna eat today?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's going
oh
to be
man,
alive or not. Uh,
when that show first started, um, I was watching an episode, and I've never seen this episode replayed ever. I had the feeling they pulled it and they just pretended like it never existed. But the night it premiered, there was this mountain where he's like, or there was this episode where he's climbing this mountain, and like he comes across this wild stag, right? And his idea is, I'm gonna lure in this horse. I'm going to make a rope and I'm going to ride around and I'm going to ride him down the mountain. And he's just sitting there for like 5 hours, weaving this rope together. And then like he like puts it behind his back and he gets like some sweet grass and he's like slowly inching his way over to this horse. And like, eventually the horse comes over and like not even like a couple seconds, this horse eating this grass out of his hand. He just cold cocks it right in the side of the head. And he like he just cold cocks it, throws the rope over its neck, and the horse just takes off running, and it like runs off camera, dragging him, and like further in the distance, it runs again, dragging him across the street. It was like a Stooges gag, you know what I mean? I'm like seriously?
Oh my God! I do like watching stuff. Well, not obviously getting a horse getting punched. You're likely to hurt yourself more than that horse. To be
Oh,
completely
that
honest.
horse was about to mess him up.
Oh yeah, you don't. I grew up on a farm, man. You don't screw with those animals that are outweigh you by 1,000 pounds.
I'm
But
saying.
there was this one. I can't remember what it was called. That it was about this lawman, this tracker. I think it was called Tracker. And they would have like 4 or 5, like a couple or something.
Mhm.
These people out there trying to run from him, and they were given like a day's head start or something, and then he would track them down and catch them before they could make it to like the home base and steal the flag or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
um, that was always fun to watch because I don't think anyone ever actually beat this guy. Now that could have been part of the design of the show. Who knows? But it was always fun to watch. With our show, it's sci-fi didn't really want the drama. I mean, with the success of Face Off, where it was more of that workplace drama where you're just sort of freaking out about getting things done.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
yeah, that there's enough drama in just that you don't have to manufacture stuff like they tried to do with us a number of times, but we saw through it and we played away from it. And I remember hearing how pissed off some of the producers were, and these were the same producers that produced like RuPaul's Drag Race and what was it called, Project Runway,
Hmm.
where they were so used to the drama that they would just try to manufacture it. These story producers would just try to manufacture it, and we wouldn't fall for it. We completely twist away from it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like they'd get pissed off about the fact that we were helping each other. Like I can't even believe it made an episode, but I think it was episode 4 where we were working on those big heads for the wall, and Donald Faison was this crazy wizard that was bringing them to life one at a time. Um, they actually put it in the scene where I was finished with my creature, and Lex, a friend of mine on the show, was having a hard time getting her creature finished. There was some stumbling and stuff, and I offered to help her, and it made
Mhm.
the edit. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe they actually put that in there. So There was a lot more of that going on than I think anyone even realized. There was like, we would have these mechs, what is it, animatronic mechanisms that didn't quite fit together. But it took a while for us to figure out that the parts were wrong, and it wasn't on purpose. It was just, I think some parts got mixed up when they put these kits together.
Oh, gotcha. Now, see, I would say that would be a great way to, throw a monkey wrench into it. Just give you
And they
pieces
did, I
missing.
think,
Yeah.
inadvertently. And to be honest with you, I found out what would qualify as mechanisms, because you're required to have a mechanism in that particular build, and I used it, and then I was done and moved on, while everyone else was trying to figure out what the hell was going on with these mechs, and they were burning time. They were
Right.
burning like 8 hours of build time trying to figure out these mechanisms, and if that was on purpose, that would make sense. You throw a curveball like that, but they were so adamant about the fact that it wasn't done on purpose that they actually had, I think it was John Criswell, went back and looked at them. He was one of the masters on the show, and he was like,
Mhm.
shit, I think that these were incorrect. And all of us respect John, so if John tells us that it was not by design, we're automatically going to believe him, because we have a great deal of respect for him and Pete and you know and Julie. And so,
Right.
I don't feel like it was intentional, but it did kill a lot of people. Even Yvonne she's Yvonne has the biggest of all of our resumes. She was the one that's worked on any cool, what the hell is it? The Marvel movie
Yeah.
Yvonne has been involved with. She came in with credits that were unbelievable, and she was eliminated that episode because of the fact that there were too many things that were screwed up. That was, mechs were a big problem. We would give over things like projects, and we had no choice. It was like,
Mhm.
we sculpted this, and now we have to let somebody else mold it. And geez, are they going to screw it up? And they somehow screwed hers up. It had this big ass air bubble in it, and so
Ah.
she had to remanufacture her creature. And that ate up a ton of time, and she ended up not being able to finish and was later eliminated. You know, but there was enough, I think, just us. Like, did you see the first episode? I mean, did you get to see any of the episodes of the
I,
Henson
I
show?
I never watched the entire series all the way through, but I was a big fan of Face Off, which honestly, the thing I will say about Face Off is that it introduced a lot of people to the practicality and like steps
Oh
of how
yeah.
this stuff is done. So because I was such a fan of that, like I watched periodically, episodes here and there. So yeah, I'm familiar with some of this stuff that was done.
Well, like on our first episode, they stuck me with someone who never seemed, or didn't seem as if she had ever worked as a team before,
Okay.
and kept trying to take the lead. And it was driving me crazy because, there is a process that, you share the work, you don't necessarily, it, there, that by itself caused a great amount of, stress,
Yeah.
so that's, I guess that's, legitimate drama right there. And it ended up making the first episode, as
Mhm.
shameful as that actually was. But
Well, I
you
mean,
know,
you have to have experience to be able to lead. Like, if you're someone who's inexperienced really like working with a team and in that environment, then, you don't necessarily want to be the one taking the reins if you don't have experience doing that.
really, and in my viewpoint, it was, I sort of just finally just conceded to
Mhm.
trying to work with her in that particular respect, because I didn't want to come off as, I'm the guy, so I'm the
Right,
older
right.
guy and I should be in charge. No, that's not how I wanted that to play out at all. I just wanted to get through the damn episode. I wanted to have a creature that worked. I wanted to not be eliminated, because, and I say this in my book. That's like the number one thing that's going through your head, because you don't fail once in a reality show. You fail millions of times, because
Oh,
every
yeah.
person that sees that will come up to you and remind you about that failure. And you know it sucks, but it's part of the gig.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be you don't want to be eliminated first. If the only thing going through your damn head in a reality show is, oh my God, I don't want to be eliminated first. And anyone who says that that doesn't go through their head is lying their ass off. I mean,
That would be what's going through my head right off the bat.
exactly. I
I
mean,
mean,
I went through military training. I was ex-military, so I went through basic training and all that stuff.
yeah.
I didn't feel half the crap and drama and stupidity, in the military, going through all the, dig the ditch to fill it back in kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I did while I was on that show. It was chaos. It was, and yeah, as confident as I was in my abilities, it was like every damn day, God, I hope I'm not eliminated. But in the back of your head, you're thinking, God, I hope I'm eliminated just to get me the hell out of this insanity,
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say thank you for your service. I always
No
like to
problem.
thank a vet when I get the opportunity to. But I mean, I feel like no matter what sort of artist you are, you kind of have that same kind of anxiety putting your work out there because it's easy to be a critic. Everybody can be a critic. I mean, I leave reviews for restaurants I haven't even gone to, um, but. But I mean, primarily, when you're on that kind of a platform, a reality show, I mean, I feel like, even if you don't win, like you at least want to make it to the semifinals, just so you can hang. You know what I mean? It's just kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's just kind of a test of like your own talent and fortitude at that point.
And and all the time that you've given up, all of that. I mean, you're not really getting paid. I mean, they'll give you like a stipend
Yeah.
to offset things, but we had it's funny. We had the Henson company behind us, and we had the worst stipend, I think, in all of the the reality show. I mean, from what I've been told, I mean, I think we
Really?
got something like $400 a week or something to go through all that hell and to work all those long hours and all
Yeah,
that
that's
stuff
ridiculous.
to live in the shithole that we were living in, and you'll notice on our show, you won't see any footage of the cast house. And I do believe that was by design because the cast house was such a shithole that there was no one wanted a camera in there because it
Yeah.
was associated with the Henson show. Why
Right,
are
right.
they, in this situation? We had an insect infestation. The water
Oh, not
heaters.
roaches, right?
Oh, I can't even. There was ants, different kinds of like beetles, and like we would have so one of the water heaters needed to be swapped out because it just totally went out on us, and so
Yeah.
we were taking cold showers for several days before they got that fixed. Then there was what the hell was it? There was this weird toilet backup issue in the women's side of the
Ugh.
house where there were these roots growing through the pipes. So whenever the girls would, they would flush and it would go into the drain of the shower. And so
Oh,
it was like, that's disgusting. And if you were in the cast house and you were cooking, a lot of times we would cook, for each other,
yeah, yeah.
you had to have somebody manning the breaker outside, because you couldn't run the stove or the microwave at the same time, or you trip a breaker. You couldn't run the coffee maker and say the garbage disposal at the same time because you trip a breaker. And if you were using the stove, you had to have somebody with a big sheet of cardboard by a window to fan it because you needed to blow the smoke out the window because it would set off these alarms and you'd hear this fire. It would just be
Oh.
like, it was this woman saying, fire, find an exit, fire, find an exit.
I
And
mean,
it was horrible.
like I can see why the Henson brand didn't want them to be associated with that, but I gotta say that would make some damn good television.
I'm going to show you something that no one else has seen. And I know you probably set this up as as just an audio only, right?
I just started reviewing or recording the video sessions as well, but I don't know. Sometimes the video with Zoom gets sketchy, so if the video quality doesn't come out all right, then yeah, I usually just do audio.
This was you've seen like the bedrooms in the cast house of Face Off, right?
Right.
This, you'll see your little picture in the corner there. That was, I'm trying to get it to focus in. Maybe I need to come back a little bit.
Yeah, right
That
there.
was the epitome of the decor in the whole house. There were no curtains on the windows. There were these military style racks that we slept in. No images on the walls at all. No carpeting. So
Yeah.
when you talked, it echoed through there like you wouldn't believe. Um, and the girls had these sliding glass windows in the sliding glass doors in their bedrooms. So
Hmm.
they had to go to Target when we got our little Target runs and buy blankets that they could hang over those windows so that they wouldn't have any neighborhood peeping toms checking them out while
Gee.
they were, changing or whatever. This was the most ghetto setup you've ever seen in your life.
Now,
Horrible.
now, see, at least tell me that, over the years since, sci-fi has at least made it up by getting you like projects for like, different movies and stuff. Because I
Oh no,
assume,
no.
really?
No, see, this is the thing, and I, with all due respect to Sci-Fi, I have nothing against them. The producers put the show together.
Hmm.
Sci-Fi just picked it up, so they had their control on the production side, mainly the editorials and shit like that. But
Right.
the business side of it, the housing and all that stuff, is all the producers. So, you know, they don't care. Sci-fi doesn't care, and we kept trying to tell them, listen, we Face Off, the Henson show, we had like 15 million viewers the
Oh
last
yeah.
time I heard. You know, the Face Off, the Henson show, we have a following at Comic Cons. I mean, we are basically what all of these cosplayers are, but we're on television, and so
Yeah.
that's why Heroes of Cosplay was so big. That's why Face Off is so big, and we would tell them, if you only worked with that Comic Con to bring us out together so that you could show off Sci-Fi's reality programming, we could just explode. But Sci-Fi doesn't give a damn about the reality shows. They only care, and this is the pretty much the case for all of them. They only
Right.
care about their scripted programming, like their television series and stuff like that are more dramatic and things like that. They'll help promote those guys, but they don't give a damn about the reality show. Essentially, we're just filler.
Right.
So like guys like me who took it upon myself to connect with Comic Cons and try to bring us out as groups. The reason why we were there as the Henson show and Face Off together were because guys like me put it together, and we knew the benefit of being at these Comic Cons, because we were builders, and
Yeah.
that's what a Comic-Con audience is. Anytime anybody goes to a Comic-Con, you see a sea of cosplayers.
Oh
Those
yeah.
are all builders. You are essentially putting programming on on television that those people love, because it's what they do, it's what they love. And you're not going to back us. I mean, it just, like, we couldn't even do interviews. I finally stopped asking. I'm like, I just started doing interviews, because technically right now I'm not even allowed you know, to be doing an interview with you unless I get permission from Sci-Fi. It's like, to hell with that. I
Yeah.
mean, I just, it was just, it's insane. And that's basically, when I started thinking about all the crazy that went on in the show, and, I'm like, even if you're a consumer of reality programming, your jaw would hit the floor to
Right.
hear some of the shit that went on behind the scenes of this reality show, because I don't think it's just this reality show. I think it's conducive of a lot of them, but
Hmm.
people don't know what crap is going on. So I pitched to a publisher, you know, I just came off a reality show. It was insane. Here's a description of some of the stuff that I went through. And they greenlit that book that day. And so they gave me like 2 months to write it. I put it together, and it's called Surviving Reality. This is not that show. And it basically talks about everything that we dealt with as contestants or cast members of the show, and even the publishers were like, in some cases, they're like, this has got to be bullshit. I'm like, it is absolutely not bullshit. And I can corroborate it by, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they were just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
blown away. I mean, and these are people who are pretty jaded about things. And I was able to scare the hell out of them. You know, I was just, you know, some of the things like the cast house, that whole, we had this huge in-ground pool. I think I might even be able to show you that. Let me pull that up real quick. We had this huge in-ground pool, and it was definitely a mansion. Let me see if I can pull this there. So it was definitely a mansion, but what you don't see in that photograph is just over here. There were these dead rats that were clearly suicide victims, you know, that had offed themselves because they were so disappointed about being where they were. You know, so we had rats in the swimming pool, toilets that didn't flush. We had a laundromat set up downstairs with no lights. So if you didn't do your laundry during the day, you were screwed. If you forgot to move it from the washer to the dryer while you were on set, you know, before you left for the set in the morning, you were screwed. It was so damn pathetic. No heating system, no cooling system, unless you opened the windows, and then it was called forced air. You know, it was just insane. I mean, and that's just the damn cast house. And I know I'm forgetting some things that are probably in the book about the cast house that that I haven't told you yet. So, I mean, there was all this stuff, and you know, it was just, and I had to leave some of it out because at some point it just sounds like, what the hell? And so, you know, maybe someday I'll come out with the second edition, you know, what has the missing stuff in it, because it's just, what the hell, man?
And it seems like sci-fi missed their mark on that one because they had the ability, if they would have done it right, is to bring in all those different folks who are interested in cosplay. And that's the one thing I will tangent off for a minute here, is that cosplay is probably one of the best, most creative outlets people can find, particularly if, you know, they're into going to cons and stuff, because it challenges you to make, and I'm not talking about folks who just buy costumes on eBay. Now, if you go out of your way to make those costumes, folks who are doing cosplay, they're not just, you know, doing straight out of the comics costumes. They're reinventing them. They're making their own. They're mixing genres. They're crossing over.
Yeah.
And I saw a steampunk Batman that was just decked out and dope. Like I was talking to the guy. He was telling me how he welded it all together from, like, you know, these sheets of brass he got. I mean, some of it's just insane. But I mean, I don't know, at least the way I think it should work is that, you know, they want to promote you guys at all these cons, bring in that. And then, you know, after you guys get established, you know, with the show, they got to keep you in the family, you know, give you gigs working on sci-fi scripted series, you know, bring more people into the fray, because then, you know, those cosplayers that follow you doing these props, they might start watching that scripted television as well, because like you said earlier, you know, your name's in the credits now, and people who are into building stuff, they follow people who build stuff.
They do. There's some cosplayers that I follow, some friends I've made, you know, over the years, from like Cosplay Melee and, the Heroes of Cosplay, you know, like, you know, Yaya Han. She is like one of the sweetest people I ever, if you watch the show, it looks otherwise, but she's like one of the sweetest people, you know, in cosplay that I've met. And, you know, I mean, you know, you watch their builds and stuff, and you're blown away. That's the big thing that I think, like, the networks miss out on, like you were saying. Like, I've got over here in the corner, I kind of keep them as souvenirs, all of the celebrity badges that I've gotten over all the Comic-Cons I've been to. Mm-hmm. And I have actually, in the last 6 years since the show's finale, I have been to, as a celebrity guest, close to 56 Comic-Cons.
Wow.
And that's just me. I mean, I know the face-off guys would like to get more, visuals. The damn cosplayers want us there. You know, Here's the teetering point is, do we sell tickets? Well, I know I sell tickets because, you know, I know how many autographs I sign, and I don't charge for my autograph, but, you know, like, I've got copies of my book. So if they want to buy copies of one of my books, then that's what I do when I'm there. But I do photo ops, I do, you know, autographs, and I've stood at one Comic-Con for over 600 photographs. So I know people want to see, Henson show people, cosplay,
Yeah.
heroes of cosplay. They want to see Face Off guys. So I call a cluster of my friends from Face Off, and I'll be like, hey, I'm working on this out with this Comic-Con, to maybe do like a workshop thing. Would any of you guys be interested? You're not really going to get paid a ton, but it's a, way to kind of keep,
His exposure.
Exactly. And so, I've got this group that I go to on a regular basis, usually the guys from, from the first season, like for instance, Marcel Banks from the first season of, Face Off. I call Marcel regularly, mainly just for problems. I'm just like, hey, I can't figure this out. What the hell are you doing that I'm doing wrong? And Marcel's down for it. I've got, a group of friends of mine from the Henson show that they're genuinely interested. Usually it's going to be Lex, me, sometimes Melissa, and Yvonne. And, and we'll go to these Comic-Cons and Gigi and I keep talking about us as the artists ourselves, but like Kirk Thatcher is always down for things. Gigi's always down for things. And she was the host. And Kirk was one of the judges, and you get us together, and if Kirk's there, it gets pretty raw. But we all have a good time. We all have fun. We had so much fun on this show. We want to share that with our fans, I don't understand why it's never been grasped by the network that they have this gold mine that they're not doing anything with, we all just kind of promote ourselves in that particular, respect. And I think, and God only knows what's going to happen with Comic-Cons now. Post COVID, God only knows. But there for that period that, they had countless, opportunities to just, some of the shows I've been to were over 100,000 people, attended. Some of them were like the worst. I don't know if you're a Comic-Con guy.
Oh, I go to a lot of Comic-Cons. We work tables and sell comics. And then that was the one thing I was going to ask you, just because you go to Comic-Cons. Everybody who sets up a table at a Comic-Con that I talk to, I always ask him this one question. What is the weirdest request you have ever gotten while you were at Comic-Con?
Oh, dude. I can't even. Honestly, I can't even. Because this is probably be broadcasted, a child would hear it. I can't even go into some of that stuff. But there's some guys. I'm actually drinking from their mug. Am I allowed to promote them at all?
Go for it.
So these are some friends of mine. I've actually been to 6 of these. This is Dallas All Con. I've got some friends / fans / blah. From that Dallas Comic Con that heard stories that we put on this panel. It was actually started by Neil Kaplan, voice of Optimus Prime. He started this thing. It was a late night panel. And because this Comic-Con is 24 hours, basically 4 days long, it never ends. So we would do these midnight panels, and we called them the drunk panels. And essentially you would try to get as many of the celebrity guests in this panel with you as you could, and then get them drunk. And no one was allowed to record or have their cameras on or whatever. All the cameras had to be off. And we would just browbeat the industry. Like some of the stories that were coming out of that panel, people are still talking about today 5 years ago. And so this was a regular thing for us. I missed the first Dallas All Con this year in 6 years because we had a baby. And so she was due the week before. Yeah, thanks. So, she was due just, the week before. So it was like, there's no way in hell I'm going, but that panel still goes on. And if I'm there, it's the midnight panel, it's still all Neil Kaplan's, dream, panel or whatever that he put together. And so whether he's there at that particular show or not, there's always like the little spill of the beer, for Neil. God only knows where he's at, but if he was here, and then we would get started. And that panel, we lose track of time, and it's not uncommon for that panel to be over 3 hours after it began.
Well, I
and
mean,
you'll have,
especially if you're just drinking, shooting the shit. You know what I
and
mean?
that's it. I mean,
Talking it
you'll have
up.
people in the crowd asking questions like you were asking you about, what's the worst thing that has ever been, you know, one thing I will tell you is as it's a different world if you're a celebrity guest. Like
Mhm.
you get to see the behind the scenes stuff, and that's kind of fun, but you also get preyed upon like you wouldn't believe. And I actually had, when I came up, I can't even remember what con it was. We had this guy posing. He was coming up, and he was like my security for the weekend, and he had the earpiece and everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's escorting me back and forth to my room, taking me to all my panels, and pretty much every time I turn around, this guy's there. I even had I had a code name that this guy would use when he whispered into his cuff. So I'm like, damn, this con isn't playing around, and you know, and then we get to the end of the show, and the conover comes over and asks me how the con went. I'm like, oh my god, it was great. And did hundreds of autographs. I'm thrilled to death. And he's like, I apologize, we didn't realize that you needed that level of security. And I'm like, I don't understand. He's like, well, we have con security, but we didn't know you needed your own personal security. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, that guy's not with you. And he just sort of looked at me, and you could see blood run out of his face. I'll be right back. It was like, and then he was like escorted out. This guy had been posing as a damn, like, I don't know, he cosplay was, but you get
It's
preyed
just
upon.
cosplaying a bodyguard this whole time. Oh, that is hysterical. I mean, was he at least a cool guy to hang out with? You're stuck with him all weekend.
He was very professional. He hardly ever mingled, I mean, but he'd be outside of my room. He knew what room I was in. I mean, it was like, what the hell's going on? Help me check in and stuff. I thought he was with the convention. Anyway, that's some of
Oh,
the
that's
shit you got to
strange.
do.
That's strange. I
Yeah.
so after the fact, did you ever get like a story of who he was? Like, was he just a fan, or was he like
I
actually?
never heard another word. Are you kidding? They're not going to bring it up. They're afraid of a lawsuit. I mean, or like, because I mean, this guy, I don't know what the hell. He could have been, you just never know. But
Yeah, yeah.
the fact that and we've been to cons where you have a great time, but the con is just a nightmare. Like I was at the very last. I was one of the guests at the very last Space City Comic Con.
Okay.
And if you're familiar with Space City Comic Con, that last one, just pull up a couple of articles. There was a kidnapping of the convention owner, I think.
What?
I was like, I know that the Sons
I mean,
of
there's a lot
Anarchy
of
were all there.
jokers running around. It's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Well, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that was that was with the celebrities, like it was a nightmare. I mean, it was, but when you came out of it, they were the best damn stories. It was like I survived the very last Space City Comic Con. It was. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
whenever kidnapping is brought into the realm of things happening, like it definitely escalates the entire situation.
it was just so it was so insane. One of the big perks of being a celebrity guest at this con was that you got this dignitary level um what was it tour of NASA. And
Oh,
I was
that's
so
cool.
excited about it. Yeah, I mean, and
That's
Gigi
super
Edgley
cool.
Gigi Edgley had been there like a year before, and she was like, "You're not going to believe this. This is the coolest thing." And I'm just like, "Oh my, oh okay, I'm going," And so we're waiting, and they never gave us a clear time of when they were going to pick us up. It turned out that they were supposed to that they picked the people up 2 hours before they told most of us that we were going to be picked up. So I'm
Right.
sitting in the lobby with Doug Jones and Adrian Brody, waiting for them to pick us up. And after about 2 hours, we start to get this apparently isn't happening. But I got to hang out in the lobby having coffee with Doug Jones,
Yeah.
Adrian Brody, while I waited for this fictional thing to happen. I mean, that was like, so there's some benefits, but
How is
Comic-Con's insane.
how is hanging out with Adrian Brody? I mean, is he as squirrely as he seems? Because he always,
No, he was
when I
actually
see him, he
pretty
always
down
seemed
to
like
earth.
a squirrely kind of guy.
He was pretty down to earth, and it was just, it was sort of surreal, and then you're sitting there and you're having coffee, and Ron Perlman walks by. Hey, what's I mean, I remember being in the this is one of my favorite stories about that con. Was I was in the green room. It was lunchtime, so everybody's pretty much headed towards the green room, and I'm standing there, and I'm a little disappointed because I was like, I can't really run out to get something to eat. I don't really have a handler because they're short staffed, so I'm
You
going to eat
fired
in the
your own
green room.
security.
Yeah, and so we walk in there, and there's a bunch of us big guys, like Danny Trejo is there, and and then there's Ron Perlman, and and we're all looking, and there's this salad thing. They're just salads, and Ron Perlman walks up and punches me in the shoulder. Salads. I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with it. Why am I getting decked for for this? Getting shoulder checked that morning by, like, a lot of people don't understand that, like, Shatner, like, half the time needs his own green room, and I was in there getting a cup of coffee, and apparently it was his time, and getting shoulder checked in you're trying to
By
get
William Shatner.
It certainly seemed aggressive at the time. It might not, I don't know. I was like, I'll just get my coffee and leave. It was just,
I mean, Shatner always seemed like a prima donna,
a
I mean,
lot,
he had to have all his women painted green.
I haven't had any kind of like positive, there's certain guys, and I won't even bring up, their names, but that you just like, you're like, oh, shit, they're going to be there. It's just like, because you're on the tour. And so you get to know these guys, and, some of their, it's like, shit, it's like, you just, all right, well, hopefully they don't sit me in that general area, or whatever. But
man, William Shatner taking a tour of NASA, that's got to be something.
I would love to have been a part of that photo op. I mean, I don't know if he did, though, because, I don't know if he does that kind of stuff. I wonder. I mean, I found out, I don't know why I didn't know this, but he's like a billionaire, man. I mean, he's tons of money, and I don't even know if you've got billions of dollars, does that even trip your trigger going to NASA and getting the dignity? Does he maybe own part of NASA? Who knows? I mean,
I wouldn't doubt it at all. I mean, and then like this is probably wrong, but this is just what I have heard through the grapevine, is that when he was originally in Star Trek, he had signed on and he had got a taste of some of the merchandising rights in his original contract. So as that's gone on, and series after series, like he still got that minuscule cut, whatever it is. But I mean, Star Trek is a phenomenally large series, man. You got TV shows, movies, toys, T-shirts, mugs, just keeps going.
Yeah, it's and I got to be honest, a lot, meeting those guys is also surreal. Being able to talk to them in the green room and stuff, and you just feel like
I bet Danny Trejo's cool. He seems like he'd be a real down-to-earth guy.
Oh, I worked on a movie with Danny called Juarez 2045, and I built these robots and stuff like that. He while we were on, he loved to give the director shit, and it would just crack us all up,
as is tradition.
Yeah, and so but he would say, "Sir," he'd be like, "Do I really have to do this again, sir? Or if it was so good, sir, why are we doing this again?" It was just, he was hilarious. But while we were on the set, he had this little kid. I think, don't hold me to this, but I think she was a part of a Make a Dream, or Make a Wish program. Yeah. So, and she loved him in, Spy Kids. I think he was in Spy Kids or the Spy Kids 3 or something. And so she was off camera with her family, and every time the director called cut and we were setting some stuff up for the next scene, he was over there hanging out with this little girl and her family. And it went on for hours. I mean, he is
That's super cool.
all the stories you hear about Danny being this great guy are they're just true. I mean,
Honestly, I'm not like, I'm not a big celebrity guy, but if I could sit down and have a podcast interview with one of those guys, like Danny Trejo would be it, because similar to what you were saying, like you just hear such positive stories and how he goes out of his way to help people. I mean, didn't he pull someone out of a car like 6 months back after an accident?
I think I do remember hearing something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And like, I mean, the guy crashed his car and there was smoke coming out of the engine, and Machete was just on the scene.
Machete was on the scene, and a sort of like terrifying particular aspect. But so I got this picture of Danny and I from the set of that project, and I don't know if you can kind of see.
Yeah, I can see him.
You see the gold gun in his hand.
Yeah.
So he was a cartel. He was the head of a cartel. So there was all this tacky gold, AK-47s and all this shit.
Yeah.
And he had this Desert Eagle. And so in between takes, I'm like, Danny, hey, you want to do a quick photo? And he's like, yeah. I mean, he's excited about it. God only knows why. He's been working his ass off all day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to get on my knees and you hold the gun to my head. And he's like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. Can I just hold it like this? And I was just like, I hurt Danny's feelings. I felt like shit. I was like, oh my God, yes, sir. Yes, just hold it like that. But yeah, he is a fantastic guy. But
yeah, I always, I don't know. I think the thing that'll always ring or always remind me of Danny Trejo was always going to be Octavio from King of the Hill, because that was like, one of the first things that I was introduced to him as. Like, and like he always just like pops up in like just the most opportune moments, just for like, a brief scene here and there. But every time he does, it's gold.
I think the first thing I remember him from was Con Air. And
yeah.
A buddy of mine worked on that film, and so I got some background stories and stuff. But he, he always plays these evil type characters. I mean, characters that that are just so not him.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. He's just got that look. I think it was King of the Hill, and then I think the first like live action movie I saw him in had to have been From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, you know what? Which came first? Was it Con Air or Dusk Till Dawn? Because I do remember him from Dusk Till Dawn, but I don't remember when I saw it.
I don't know on that one. That would have probably been right around the same time, like 96, 97-ish.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, From Dusk Till Dawn was one of those like first movies that like I really paid attention to like all the different prosthetics work on it, because like, that one scene you had all the vampires, but then was it Selma Hayek gets like the full like snake skin mask, and just like, man, that snake skin still looks good even 30 years after the fact.
Yeah. She's pretty cool too. But the one thing that bugs me about that was one guy.
Quentin Tarantino?
No, it was
just writing foot stuff into his script.
Oh my God, that is like, yeah.
Remember, he's just like drinking the tequila off her toes, and like after the fact that you about Quentin Tarantino, you're like, oh my God, ooh, that's some bad taste.
It was Tom Savini's gun, his crotch gun, where the damn barrels didn't even meet up.
Yeah, Sex Machine.
Yeah, it had. The bullets were like right here and the barrel was right. There was no possible way you could fire that gun at all because the bullets did not make it in line.
Yeah. Oh man, Savini's the man now. I like Savini's just the man, because like, I don't know, he's like the one guy that like, particularly when he was doing horror in like the early 80s and like the censors were just on those Friday the 13th movies, like he's the only guy that did his job so well people couldn't see it. You know what I mean? Like, because like the best parts are always censored out. But I don't know, man. Like those like early like splatter flicks and primarily like man, like those '80s body melt movies, like The Incredible Melting Man and Street Trash. Like I don't know, man. That's what
I
really.
just watched what was it? Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. No,
Oh,
yeah,
wait,
no,
Temple
the
of Doom or
Lost Ark.
Raider?
The,
Yeah,
the Raiders
Raiders,
of the Lost
Raiders.
Ark. Yeah, where they had the melting faces, and it was just yesterday. Yeah, I watched it yesterday. It was I was painting a I was painting something, and I was just it was in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah. That's those are some movies I have to watch every few years, man. They just kind
yeah,
of like connect you back. So I guess let me ask you: when you were growing up, what was some of the first prosthetics makeup work that you saw in film that made you really interested and wanted to pursue this craft?
you know, the earliest memory I have, and it's almost cliche. I tell the story so much was watching Mister Rogers' Neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah, because he was all about pretend. Everything was pretend, and he would go behind the scenes of sometimes to show you how it was pretend, so the kids understood.
Right.
And he was behind the scenes of he was going on to set to see Lou Ferrigno being transformed into the Hulk, and you got to see Lou sitting in the makeup chair,
Yeah.
and they were gluing his prosthetics on, and then they had the paint, the grease paint and everything. I was hooked. I was just hooked. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was to transform people into creatures like that. And and that's probably my earliest memory. And the great thing about that is the flip side is now I do, like, there's been a couple of Comic Cons where I'm sitting right next to Lou Ferrigno,
Yeah.
and to just feel like the guy who inspired me to get into special effects is now sitting right next to me, and we're both like, obviously his line is a little bit bigger, which kind of sucks. It's like his line is all the way out the door,
Well,
and
I mean, he is the Hulk.
he is, well, and it's just so much. He's done so much. Like you forget, like like there's the King of Queens where he plays himself.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, I had completely forgotten about that. I mean, he does all these little. I kind of wondered why he didn't kind of make a cameo in the Marvel movies or
He did.
anything. Did
Uh,
he?
yeah, yeah. In the original, I wouldn't say the original, not the one with Eric Bana, but I believe it was. No, it could have been the Eric Bana one. It was either the Eric Bana Hulk or the one with who'd they replace him with?
Wasn't
Edward
it
Norton.
Ed Norton?
Yeah, so there's a scene where like, they're like walking into the lab and then you see Stan Lee and Lou Ferrigno come out dressed like security guards and they're talking about like what a wild time they had the night before.
Dude, I completely missed that. I'm gonna have to go back and look because I always wondered why the hell he didn't. I mean, you got used to Stan Lee, but
Right, right.
some
Well,
of
and
those old guys that were playing the parts.
well, and I'm hoping now that, Stan Lee, God rest his soul, has passed on, they can start doing cameos with other, folks connected with the characters. So, like, if it's a Hulk movie, Lou Ferrigno, or even like putting cameos of, like different comic artists and writers and stuff in there. Because, I
Yeah,
mean,
no
really,
kidding.
because really what those cameos are for the comic fans say, oh, hey, they got Russ Adams in there. No. But,
Oh God.
but,
It would be great. You know what? I have this personal opinion that they're gonna do some CG cameos with Stan Lee.
Stan Lee,
Like,
I could see
yeah,
that.
in the
I could
future
see that.
he'll still be a presence in those movies.
And I don't know, a lot of people would say that that's probably not in good taste unless you've met Stan Lee because
Yeah.
he would get a kick out of that.
I never actually got to meet him. He did try to kill me with a golf cart, but it was at one of those mega cons,
That does not
and
surprise me.
they have these curtains. You've been to cons. They've got these
Yeah.
curtains that separate. And so there's all this activity that goes on with the con staff and stuff behind the scenes. It's where they shuttle all of us through so that we don't have to walk through the main floor, even though
Right,
we
right.
all want to walk through the main floor. And he's come. Somebody gave him a golf cart, like let him drive, the golf cart. And I remember I opened up the curtains and I stepped out, and he's like, whoosh. And his handler's like, sorry. I was just like, they almost killed me, man. That's fantastic. You know?
Yeah, the one time I met Stan Lee, I was I had a bunch of my Spider-Man comics signed because, like, growing up, like, that was my superhero. Like, Spider-Man was my guy. And I walked up to him, and, like, this was still before Stan was, like, before his, mental decline. Like, he was still really active and engaged, and, like, he would talk and, tell every person who went up to him a little story, and kind of, like, get feedback and make everyone feel appreciated, which is what Stan was great at.
Yeah.
So I go up to him and, like, I have him sign, my comics, and he, like, says, I forget what he says, but he tells me, like, a little anecdote. And then I reach out to shake his hand, and, like, I grab his hand and I give him the tickler. Like, I just tickle the palm of his hand a little bit, and he grabs me tighter and he says, "Ooh, Excelsior," and he tickles me back. And it's just like, I don't know, that's the one thing I loved about Stan Lee, is that no matter how weird it would get, like, he would just embrace it. He would kind of lean into it,
Oh my God. I have a friend of mine who's he's a cosplayer, and he was dressed up as one of the exo what the hell are they? The aliens from Alien. I
Yeah.
can't remember what the hell they're called. But he's in one of those, black suits and stuff.
Yeah,
And
the
he's making
Xenomorphs.
the Xenomorphs, that's what it is.
Awesome.
And he goes in,
design, one of my favorites.
he's taking a leak, and there was this little mechanism that he had to pop open, that he had to work into the costume so he could take a leak.
Yeah.
And he gets himself ready, and he starts going, and right next to him he hears, "Oh my." And it's George Takei right next to him. And if that wasn't uncomfortable enough, he gets a picture with George Takei right outside the bathroom. Oh shit.
Now, see, if that was me, I would have asked George Takei to, like, take a picture of me while I was at the urinal, just, like, looking down, like, giving his little thing, like, oh man, that would be perfect.
And this guy is the kind of guy who would do that. I mean, he has no boundaries, so yeah, like no boundaries at all,
I just, like, I don't know, I feel like that would be a great way the conversation would go, like, "Hey, George, will you take a picture with me in the urinal real quick?"
Man,
he's like, "Well, usually not for free, sir."
And that's like one of the, I will never be at, the level that those guys, like, not even in my wildest dreams. But when you go into the bathroom as one of those guys, it has to be like, you're a sitting duck, man. You're trapped at the damn urinal with fans all around you,
Yeah.
Even if you're not a George Takei fan, you are. I mean, oh my God, George Takei's at the urinal. What, obviously we have to videotape this and put it on YouTube. I mean,
we'll get a few thousand views.
I know. Yeah, we'll get 1,000 views. Oh my God.
So is he a shaker or is he a swirler? I'll
have to ask. I don't know. I was
asking the burning questions of today.
And to be honest, if anybody else would have told me that story, I'd been like, all right, but this guy is so inappropriate. I know that you can believe what he's saying because I've seen him in action. He has no shame. Give him a quick shout out, Shane. You know who you are. It's like, yeah. And his whole family's like that. His wife is like, his sister is like this knockout, but if you talk to her, you're like, wow, you're kind of inappropriate.
Sounds like my kind of lady.
Oh my God. Yeah, the whole family is just inappropriate.
I mean, that sounds like George Takei's kind of people too, though.
Yeah, he probably was. Maybe he
always loves to push the boundaries, man.
Oh my God, that's one of the things I love the most about going to these Comic-Cons was, I mean, hell, even if you break even, I mean, they're sort of like, it's not like I have to pay or anything, I mean, they pay for your flight and your hotel and
right.
In there. but there's still time away from your job and stuff. And I really don't even care. I love being in that atmosphere because, where else are you going to be surrounded by that level of artists and that level of art lovers,
Oh yeah.
and it almost doesn't matter. I mean, it runs the gambit from comic books to toys to, you know, um, just graphic artists, just trying to put their stuff out, and, writers. I mean, there isn't, I think there, I bet you that every form of art is in there in some way. Leather workers.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's just there's a guy that I see every year at Dallas AllCon, and he makes these incredible ships, and he does these really big models of, like, I think he did the big ship for Battlestar Galactica. He did this incredible ship, and
What?
oh my God, and they're huge. They're huge. I mean, him and his company puts them together. They're fantastic. They were going to build us this Enterprise before, we kind of got stepped on by Paramount, but we just wanted it as a centerpiece, and
Yeah.
and it was 10 feet. It was going to be this 10-foot, Enterprise, and we found out we had to get permission to have it built, even though we weren't going to sell it or anything, and that was kind of problematic. But
Yeah.
never really did get it resolved, so it never ended up happening. But yeah, they were going to build it, and we were thrilled to have them do it. But
Man, I feel like that's another like art form that's just kind of fallen to the ways that, with movies, like we were saying, going from like towards the CGI model making isn't what it used to be. I mean, the last time there was some really awesome models made that I'm aware of is probably, I'm sure, there's been since then, but Lord of the Rings just had phenomenal model work. Just all of
yeah.
Minas Tirith and all of the Battle of Helm's Deep. I mean, that's I don't know. That's another thing that's just fading away with CGIs. You don't see models made anymore like that.
And it kind of depends. Like, a friend of mine, his name's Crit Killen. Crit's very first. I hate his ass. His very first movie was Blade Runner, and
Oh,
he did.
whoa,
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, right. His very first movie.
whoa.
It's like, most of us have to work through trudge through the other stuff, to get to that. But and he's done like Beetlejuice and all kinds of things. Crit actually transformed his model building for film into a side gig. I don't want to say side gig, because he still does it interlaces, but for models for architecture,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so he's still doing it on that level. They still build those models, for people, for planning and things like that. So he does a lot of that on the side, and so at least it's transformative. There's other aspects that you can do in it, and then like stop motion
yeah.
has got this huge regrowth coming out, and so you really can't, if you want stop motion to look good, then you have to have those models in the background of the
Oh,
city,
yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that. Just
Yeah, I miss stop motion a lot, man. I actually I'd want to do a Ray Harryhausen night coming up here.
oh, no kidding. Oh,
Yeah,
that would be
just
awesome.
because I haven't seen him in a while, and I just bought like a 200-inch outdoor movie screen, so I've been hosting movie nights, and like a lot of my friends who come over, I said, "Oh, I don't want to have a Ray Harryhausen night." They're like, "Who's that?" Like, what do you mean,
Wow.
who's that? You
Oh.
don't know who Ray Harry? We're doing a night. It's got to be done. We'll watch some sword and or sandal flicks right back to back.
We sort of that Danny Trejo movie that I worked on. I built this big android for that, um, and I gave it like all this, multiple points of dexterity,
Yeah,
because it was understood or believed that they were going to try to do some kind of stop motion movement with it, you know, so that they could use it more than just a background prop.
yeah, yeah,
And so, that was going to be fun. It never ended up working out that way, but we've had the opportunity, like a razor skimming of an opportunity to work on stop motion stuff that just never came to fruition. And so we started like playing with it, and I've
Yeah.
got like this mini version of me, you know, that it's got the mechanism in there so you can kind of pause it and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, with my coffee. But yeah, that's, you
Man, it
know,
looks so much like Captain Spaulding.
yeah, it's sort of
Rest in peace, Sid, wherever you are.
yeah, no kidding. It's yeah, it's a hell of an undertaking. I mean, like any animation,
Yeah.
but photography, you know, version of, you know, that, and you know, you're talking 24 photographs every second, you know, like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
literally breaks it down, you know, how how individual, you know, tiny little movements, and God, if anything, if anybody bumps the table, or you know, I mean, the lighting,
Oh,
you have to have special
days worth of
meters.
work gone, man.
Oh yeah. Well, and you have to have these special meters that control the voltage to lights, because your eye can't see it, but a
Yeah.
lot of lights will flicker, and it'll happen, and they call it, you know, just flickering. You know, when you're taking a photo and you've got that, and it's suddenly it's the lighting's different in that one scene. You're like, what the hell happened there? Now you have to go back and rephotograph that,
Hmm.
because there was no voltmeter controlling the lights. Just there's so much involved
Yeah, a
that,
lot of different factors.
yeah, I mean, and you would never know unless you got into it. You know, like the rigs, like I got this pathetic piece of crap right here. These rigs are used for those flying, jumping kind of things, and
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
erase them from the background. So you have to get the background plate shot, and then you put this in and do the movements, and then you can delete or remove, you know, that with Photoshop or whatever. I think that would probably be the best part of it, is that you could just easily go into Photoshop and make those changes. And I say that, and somebody's probably flipping me off right now. Easy. But I mean, it's not like you need, you know, some kind of, you know, incredible, you know, expensive software, as if Photoshop wasn't, you know. But like, and we've bought editing, like I've got Final Cut Studio up there that I can't use anymore because I updated. Anyway, you know, I'm not going to get that, but that Final Cut Studio is like $1,700, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just an editing program, for God's sakes, and you can only use it on Mac. But
Yeah.
yeah, we upgraded the SOS, sorry, SOS, the operating system on it to the next level, and
Mhm.
we can no longer use our $1,700, you know, software.
Oh, that
I
is
was
ridiculous.
pissed.
That
Like
sounds like an Apple move, though. Like
it really
100%
was.
sounds like an Apple move.
I mean, and anyone, I'm kind of getting into some animation, you know, right now with a project, these guys behind me, called the Order of the Veil,
Okay.
and I'm learning a new program, and it's called Moho Studios. But I also have an older version that's like 10 years old that still works on the damn laptop, you know? So it doesn't matter how far along this is. I mean, I do have the new version only because of the cool toys that come with it, but that old version would still work just as easily on here, you know, because it's a PC, it's not freaking Macintosh.
So that new project, is that going to be is that for a studio, indie, or for a streaming
That's
service?
kind of a personal project. So I got with a friend of mine, Dave Knighton, and Dave is this really big D&D guy, RPG guy,
Mhm.
and so he writes, you know, campaigns and stuff like that, and
Yeah, yeah.
adventures for all these. And I said, you know, I wrote this book like 30 years ago, really bad fiction, you know, fantasy thing, and it's been sitting there and sitting there. I don't really think it's good enough to send to a publisher or anything. And you know, when it comes to novels and stuff, those things are the hardest to try to sell, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And so I
Oh,
told
yeah.
him, yeah, I was like, so this is the storyline. Could we turn this into an RPG? Dave gets all excited, you know, and he's like, yes. Within a month, we had a campaign. We had all the characters created. I sculpted all of them. So there's 5 bulk characters, and then there's the background and stuff like that. And Dave put together this campaign, and we created. It's called, you know, Order of the Veil, the RPG version.
Mhm.
And so me, being me, I can't stop at the RPG version. I have to have a toy line. So I started working on the sculptures. And then I was like, you know what would be awesome? So we did this old school like they did in the 80s, and to sell the toys, you create, an animation series like G.I. Joe and shit.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
only reason G.I. Joe existed and Transformers existed was to sell the damn toys.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
absolutely.
go ahead.
No. Go ahead and finish your rant. No, you're right. You're right there. The only reason that a lot of those toy lines existed, or the reason a lot of those cartoons existed, was just to pump up the toy lines. I mean,
Yeah,
everything from He-Man. I mean, all those shows in the '80s.
it really was. It was a commercial. It was a
Yeah,
Saturday morning commercial, and we ate it up. And I was like, I always wanted to have my own series, and so I'm like, I'm going to learn animation. What the hell? I can sculpt. I can make the toys. That's not even the hard part. I can do all that, man. Animation is a whole different. I have yet had a project to bring me to tears like animation has, and it's just like, what in the hell can I get a stupid walk cycle to work?
yeah,
I mean, it's insane. Even with programs developed to help smoothen that out, it's still it's still incredibly daunting. And props to all those animators out there who make that shit work because
yeah. Animation is. I mean, it takes a lot of patience because it's so tedious. I had actually Tom Cook on the show a couple weeks back. He was an animator for He-Man. He
yeah,
directed King of the Hill. Jetsons movie. He worked on all these cartoons, and this was before the time of computers. So the fact that they just had to keep track of all these different cell sheets and know
yeah.
exactly which one was going to be which and which exact frame. I mean,
They've
just
got these things
keeping.
called in betweens.
Yeah,
Like, did he talk about that? Like, and then, oh, if you want to do it in ones or do it in twos or do it in fours, and I'm like, what? What
yeah,
language are you speaking right now? And it's like, and then you've got keyframes. Like you could have like 4 keyframes, and then you got to do like 20 in betweens, and it's like, what the hell? That's what the program actually helps with. It helps smoothing out some of those in betweens, but still,
yeah,
you're still doing it. You
yeah.
still
So
have to
it's
go in
not
there
so
and correct
choppy.
it. Oh my God, it's insane. So I've got all kinds of, praise for those guys because, this is obviously something that I'm not going to be able to just kick, an episode out. It's not going to be one of those things where, I just get a bug in my, my butt and I'm going to go and create one of these guys, which I could probably do in a weekend.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. It's going to be a very slow, methodical, and it's going to age me. It's going
Well,
to age.
oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, whenever someone's trying to learn a new skill. I mean, animation's on a whole different level, but just that frustration when you first try and learn a new skill. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's always the worst, but then it's so rewarding when everything just clicks and you finally get it. You know what I mean?
Well, and I keep telling because I teach special effects to people. Like I teach at the university and stuff like that. So I'm always telling them, don't think that you're going to pick this up like that. I mean, it takes practice, and
Yeah.
yet, good night. Sorry, my daughter's giving me the good night signal. She's 3 months old, so her mom's waving her hand. But it's. Oh, I lost my train of thought. What the hell was I talking about? I saw my adorable daughter, and I was like, oh. So.
Well, I guess let's shift focus. And I know you've heard this. I know you've heard this question at a con, probably asked you dozens of times. But if you could do effects on one of the main movie franchises, and take your pick, whether it's Marvel, Predator, Alien, Terminator, whatever the case may be, one of these big franchises, which one would you want to do?
I got to be honest. I wouldn't even know. I would love to work on any one of. I would like to work. I'm one of those guys who I just like to create stuff.
Yeah.
If I had something that I wanted to be a little more, that I had some control over, I would hope it would be like to revise something that hasn't been remade yet. Like,
Okay. Like a
I'm trying to
labyrinth.
think. Oh dear God.
I mean,
I,
you
uh,
were speaking of Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
I was a big fan of Dark Crystal,
Oh,
when I
that
was a kid.
Netflix reboot was phenomenal.
I haven't even seen it. Honestly,
It
there's so much
it is a
drama
prequel
involved.
and it is solid.
I'll have to. I keep saying I'm going to check it out. I know I'm not going to.
I
There's
know how
just so
that goes.
much. But you know, I think something that was really kind of super cool from the past that just hasn't yet been touched by the writers' strike reboot.
Mhm.
Age that we've kind of come into. I wouldn't even know where to begin, man. It would. God, the things that I think are really, really cool, like the Star Trek reboot, I like that because it stepped away. It was able to step away and explain why it stepped away from
Right.
the path that Star Trek. We actually started. This might be so we had this project that we were all set and excited to pitch. It was a Star Trek, and it was an Enterprise. It was one that
Oh,
had never been
awesome.
seen before. Yeah, and it was still in canon, and we were so excited to work on it. And we obviously it's not going to belong to us because Paramount like if they like the idea, they're just going to take it and just do it on their own. You're going to get fired. It's just the way it is. So I would love to work on something like that. Because I like the fact that it's physically there, but I also like the CG,
Yeah, yeah.
what's going on in the new version. It's hard. It's hard. Um, I don't know if it would be like bodysuits suck. Like I love building them, but I feel bad for the person who has to wear them. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, a lot of those suits people don't realize underneath those suits is a cool suit that usually has some circulation and cold water going through it so they don't overheat and stuff like
Yeah.
that. They're not comfortable. I mean, you're not really like, I think it was, wasn't it, Alicia Silverstone who played Batgirl in,
Hmm.
one of the nipple versions of Batman. And,
Yeah, that was Batman and Robin, the worst Batman movie ever made.
exactly. Anytime you introduce Robin, you've ruined it. Almost as bad as interjecting Superman into a Batman film. You ruin it. Because
Ah,
this is my rant. I swear to God, this is my rant. Every Superman franchise has failed. Always. Always. They always do. They take a dive, and that's it. Batman has always been a thriving, franchise, no matter
yeah.
who's playing the role, except for this idiot they got coming out now, has always been iconic. And then the one time they bring them together and it just falls to shit. What's the common denominator between all of that? They put Superman in with Batman and ruined Batman. They just ruined it.
Yeah, I mean, the only good Superman movies were the first two. Like the first two Christopher Reeves Superman movies they were phenomenal. Because they
Yeah.
were meant to be made back to back and they were one complete story. And that's where it should have ended. Once you get Richard Pryor in there, things
Yeah,
just
now
dived.
it's the same thing. You had to have, even though it sort of worked, it was campy, but it just ruined it.
Yeah.
Was Jim Carrey being
Oh,
interjected, and then everyone loves Tommy
as the
Lee Jones.
Riddler.
Yeah,
Oh man, dude, I
but everybody
remember he
loves
got
Tommy
the
Lee
best.
Jones, and then Tommy Lee is all of a sudden, what the hell did they do to him? And what the hell is this pathetic character that he's playing?
Man,
It's like,
I go back and I watch Batman Forever and remember the first 5 minutes of that movie with that really deep monologue about the scourges of justice that Tommy Lee has. It really builds it up oh, this is a Two-Face that I can get behind. And then as soon as he turns his
shit.
face and you got that purple there, he just starts chewing the scenery and it doesn't end for an hour and a half.
It's insane. I'm trying to recall who played what the hell's Two-Face's character again?
Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent. Yeah, was it Harvey Dent in the two Tim Burton movies played by a black actor?
He was played by Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, you're right. And I
Lando
love him.
himself,
God,
yeah.
I cannot freaking believe I forgot who played. But why in the hell did we go to Tommy Lee Jones from there? Why couldn't it have just carried over?
Yeah.
I don't understand. You've already set the tone why change it up?
Apparently, this was, and I'm not sure how true this is, but apparently the original script for Batman Returns, it was still Penguin and Catwoman as the main protagonist, but it ends up ending with like Billy D. Williams' character getting scarred, and it would have led right into that third movie.
Yeah,
Now, what happened was Tim Burton got in a fight with Sam Hamm over the second film because obviously Tim Burton wanted, all the circus freaks that attacked Gotham right from the
yeah,
sewer. Now, granted, that would have probably worked a lot better with the Joker. Just saying, you could have did that in the first movie and it would have made sense. Penguin, not so much, because the Penguin wasn't a sewer monster. He was a nightclub owner and a mobster. I don't know, man.
yeah.
If they would have gone with Sam Hamm's script, for that one, they actually wanted Bob Hoskins to play the Penguin, and that would have been phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. It's also kind of hard to choke down the whole Gotham thing. The whole
Yeah,
Gotham series. I mean, I kind of like what
I
they're
couldn't get
doing.
into it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked what they were doing with oh my God, Gordon's character.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
the dude from the OC.
yeah, exactly. That he was, a Boy Scout, but he was tough,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
take any shit. But then they start bringing in the pseudo Joker, and it was so over the top. It was so ridiculously remnant of that '60s, just pathetic.
And they never wanted to commit to the fact that he was the Joker. Is he? Isn't he?
Exactly.
Could be.
He was, yeah. Oh, and then they bring him back, I guess. I just stopped watching it. Plus, you start with Bruce Wayne so young. How is this child kicking ass and taking names?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
understand.
He's 10 years old. He's had no training yet, and he's already starting his investigation. That's how you knew the show started going downhill, when they had to
Yeah,
start bringing in Batman, and you couldn't just rely it on Gotham's finest. I don't know.
exactly. Yeah.
I feel like that show would have worked a lot better if they would have removed all of like the mainstay, Batman villains, and just focused on like Salvatore Maroni or all the different
Fish.
mobster characters. Yeah, and actually made it just a
She.
cop drama set in
Yeah.
Gotham.
Yeah. Exactly. It would have. Yeah. It would have been. It would have been cool to go, that direction. I just, there was so much they could have done that they just, yeah. It's
Yeah,
sad.
they were trying to pull a Daredevil, but they got to realize that Daredevil only works because it's not on network TV.
Yeah. Yeah. That was. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Because like it was at that same time like Marvel had all these really dark series on Netflix, and I mean Daredevil phenomenal. First half season of Luke Cage is phenomenal. I wouldn't say I recommend the rest.
I never. Here was my problem with the whole thing. I'm a comic book fan. I mean, I'm not comic books themselves,
Mhm.
but the characters that they're,
Right.
that became the screen. I'm more of a visual movement kind of person, and I loved Spider-Man. Even the television show back in the day, was always fun to watch and stuff. But I have been choked to the point where everything is Marvel. Every damn thing. Like you go on Netflix there for a while, there was like it felt like 30 freaking Marvel movies. It was like
They just
when
keep
or
pumping them out.
television series. I mean, not even just movies. And it's like I can't breathe. It's like I'm
Yeah.
getting so sick. And then they won't even bring certain things together. And I know there's a reason for it. I don't understand the reason why the X-Men can't be a part of the Marvel universe,
They
when it
can
comes to
now.
the Avengers.
They
Avengers.
can now, since Disney bought Fox, but unfortunately, they want to give as much time as they can before they start bringing the X-Men in, because man, that X-Men series Fox had, like, they every four movies they'd have one good one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just got rough after a while. Like you can't even watch through them. And like I love bad movies. Like I watched Bad Taste with Peter Jackson like the other night, but like these are like overtly bad movies because they're not supposed to be bad or cheesy. They just turn out that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I don't know how this has even come to fruition. It was because of my comic Comic-Con thing, but like I have become friendly with a number of people from from Trolls 2, you know, and I think that was if you watch the documentary, that was a serious attempt
Oh
by
yeah.
that director. He
Oh
was dead to
yeah.
God serious that this was a crafted, skillful, beautiful movie. Like, I mean, he was serious.
He was pissed when people were laughing at the screening. He was so offended. And it's just like, how could you not know? How could you not
Oh
know?
my God. And Deborah, I can't remember Deborah's last name. She was the troll queen.
Mm-hmm.
She is a trip in person. And she is like I've got some, let me see if I can pan up here a little bit. I've got some, like, this werewolf back here.
Mm-hmm.
You see it up on the shelf?
Yeah, yeah.
Deborah did some very you know, she did some things to my werewolf. You know, so I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "He's speaking to me." Like, she is such a trip. And I think she lives locally. I think she's like, I think she lives in Utah.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so I mean, and we met up at a couple of cons and stuff, and she's always. We met the kid, Michael. Again, I think it's Simons or Simmons. He was the kid in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, he ended up becoming a director.
Oh
He's
really?
yeah, he ends, you know. Anyway, you know, it's just it again with me in Comic Cons, but
Yeah, Troll 2 is without a doubt like it's the most fun you'll ever have watching a bad movie because like some of it's just so overtly bad.
yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Now they're eating her and then they're going to eat me. Like yeah, you don't need to narrate that. We get the gist of it.
Oh my
I think
God.
I think one of my favorite scenes in that movie is remember when they're like watching like the TV and then like you know they just like watching like the ape put his hands on an egg and then the ape just shoots out into a rocket into space and like there's like and then like you know just cuts back to him laughing and it's like so bad and so cheesy but like
Oh
that
God.
I thought that they had for the longest time like made that footage for the movie but it ended up being taken from this Italian film series that was premiered in Germany called Girls with Tails. I think that's what it was called, Girls with Tails. And it's just like, you know, they just
It
took
was an art film.
it was like I looked up footage for it because I got so curious, and it's like a Three Stooges style like caveman comedy. But you know,
You
it's just
can't look that stuff up on Google, man. You don't know what you're gonna get, you know.
dude, it's crazy, man. But it's just like you know, as like low budget and niche a thing as Troll 2 is, the director reached even deeper into that basket and referenced a movie that was from Italy that was premiered in Germany that no one would ever see or
But
know.
wasn't the director Italian?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
Trolls
yeah.
2? Yeah, yeah. And you know, there's always the scene with the, you know, I had to tighten my belt one extra loop to keep the hunger pains away. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
just the
yeah.
lines were so idiotic. But yeah, people, it's like Rocky Horror Picture, man. You go to see Trolls 2 in the screen, people are dressed up, they know the lines.
Oh
They're going
yeah.
to start screaming the lines at the film. It's actually kind of fun when you're with that group of people, you know, those. My all-time favorite worst movie, and I even it brings a tear to my eye to call it a horrible movie. I know it's a horrible movie, but I've loved it since I was a kid. George Hamilton, Zorro the Gay Blade.
I
Have
have
you ever
not
seen
seen
it?
that one. No, I need to now.
Oh my God, it's hard to find on DVD, but basically the gist is, I don't know. Do you want me to ruin it for you, or you
Go
just want me
for it.
to?
Oh no, I'll watch it just for the laugh factor.
Oh my God, it's got the best one-liners. Oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this. So essentially, George Hamilton has a twin brother, and
Yeah.
their dad was Zorro, and he's passed away. And he hands it down to George. Well, George is screwing around and hurts himself, and he can't be Zorro anymore in a time where they really need Zorro.
Yeah, yeah.
So his twin brother, was shipped off to the Royal Navy of England, all right, shows up in his little wig, powdered wig, and his little royal uniform, white as a ghost, right? and gay as hell. You know, it's hilarious. And he uses a whip, not a sword, and he changes the costumes into they're bright red. One is yellow, another one is, you know, and he's right. And the one-liners are, you know, like they're trying to figure out who Zorro is. So the alcalde is questioning the other Zorro, the one who hurt himself, and is trying to get him because the guy looks like him and he can't figure out what's going on. he says, that's not how Zorro would talk. Say something like a sissy boy. And he's like, say something like a sissy. It's like the best. It is so politically inappropriate. It could never be made today. But that movie had me in tears from the time I think it came out in 1980, and it's got the same theme music as Goonies. And it's all through the damn movie. It's, oh my god, and it's George Hamilton, so it's cheesy as hell.
Yeah.
And oh my god, dude, you gotta see it. It's like the greatest nightmare train wreck.
It's on my watch list now. I often think about that though, you know, like all the different movies that were like made in the 80s that you knew could not get made today. Like today, there's no way you could have Porky's get made or Revenge of the Nerds. Like that. Well, I mean, you can never have that second act from Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh my god. Yeah, it is. It's definitely one of the top, it would have all kinds of disclaimers on it now, you know. But if you think about it, it's pretty damn empowering. You know, if you think about the movie itself, it's 1980. This was set back in the 1800s, and the oppressed of this particular village is set free by a gay man in a Zorro costume. I mean, he's a hero. One way or another, he's a freaking hero. You know, it doesn't matter if, you know, the whole part with the swing your hips, you know.
Yeah, he's just a master sword play, but not the kind you had in mind.
Oh my god! And he'll write Zorro with that whip on the wall. I love that it's a whip and not a sword. You know, fantastic movie. And yeah, it would probably get browbeaten, but yeah, it was like, and name another, you know, superhero, you know, LGBTQ, you know, character from 1980.
Yeah.
You know,
that was not only the hero of it, but was actually rebooting an iconic character.
Exactly. And it was fantastic. It was so. I mean, yeah, it might be scrutinized now if anybody even remembers it. It's like I can't, like the damn one-liners are running through my head. So you can't just use these one-liners. You just can't spit them out. You have to get the physical movement going on. You know, like when the alcalde is walking through the room and he's swinging his head, swing your head. He's trying to get him to become more flamboyant so he can see if this is actually who Zorro is, you know. Say you not the evil alcalde. I'm going to do.
Oh man, I need to watch this now.
God.
It's probably gonna happen tonight, to be quite honest.
I'm gonna be fried. Someone's gonna see the cut of this. Not, you know, it's probably gonna be taken out of context, and everyone's gonna come after me. God.
Oh man, no,
great movie.
That's definitely gonna be on my watch list because I don't know, I love just digging up like movies people have completely forgotten about because I don't know, like there's just something about, you know, right after the Hayes Act was canceled out and like all the studios basically, you know, failed because of those anti-trust laws. You had all these independent directors, production companies just coming out of nowhere and just making these lowbrow, you know, I mean, mostly, you know, forgettable, you know, B movies or exploitation flicks, depending on, you know, how gritty they wanted to be. But I mean, I don't know, I feel like movies have never been more free than in like, you know, that decades from like the early 70s into like the late 80s. Yeah. And like the most creative of those guys, you know, went on to, you know, be your Coppolas, your, you know, George Lucas's, your Spielbergs.
No kidding. Yeah, I don't even know who the hell directed this. He needs a pat on the back though. Like, but if you think about how un-PC it is,
Yeah.
even I don't think that the main cast was even had a Latino character. Like I think they were all a bunch of white guys,
They
and
pulled the
so
Charlton Heston and like touch of death or touch
and
of
so
evil.
and they've got the accent, and it's really bad accent. It's clearly made for comedy, and that wouldn't fly. I mean, it's a train wreck. I mean, it's a brilliant train wreck.
Man, I'm gonna have to do a double feature of that tonight with like blood sucking freaks.
Oh my god! You know another one? Like I don't know if you're like, you sound like you're into horror movies, but like one of my favorite horror series was Subspecies. It was made
Oh
like
yeah,
on
yeah,
Hulu
yeah, yeah.
Entertainment. I love Radu. He is the most disgusting vampire that has ever lived, and yet his brother is like this GQ model. Like, how the hell did that happen? How do
Yeah.
you have a brother that is a GQ guy and he looks the way he does?
Well, I mean, like, I don't know, vampires, they've always been portrayed that way, They're either like really like suave, sophisticated, basically Norwegian models, or they're those like really like gross looking Nosferatu kind of vampires. And like, you really don't get that in between. You don't get like, your mediocre looking vampire.
Yeah. Well, these are in the same damn movie. They're
Yeah.
related. The GQ guy and I don't even know it. It wasn't even Nosferatu. I can't even tell you. But once you've seen Radu's face, he is the quintessential face of all prosthetics put out for vampire prosthetic creatures. And this movie was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
And but if you look, you'll see, like, if you go to like Spirits or whatever those Halloween stores are, and you'll see the prosthetics and stuff, you'll be like, oh my god, that's freaking Radu's face. I mean, they'll use it, and it's recognizable, but nobody knows who the hell it is. It's unless you've seen the Subspecies movies.
Yeah.
Really cool thing about that movie was it was shot in Romania during an uprising, so there was like a civil war kind of thing going on around the movie. And so they had to keep shutting down and stuff. I mean, there's a whole documentary on it. But yeah, I mean, I've been kind of a fan of Full Moon, films ever since then. But I've got the entire Subspecies collection, that I can't watch because my wife, well, I mean, I'm surprised she hasn't tried to throw it away,
Yeah, Full Moon has some gems. I actually watched a Full Moon movie they did. It was called oh man, it was either Corona Zombies or COVID Zombies. And basically all Full Moon did was they took one of these old zombie movies that they had from the early 80s and just completely redubbed it with like some new scenes just like thrown in there for good measure. Like there's a scene, it's just like just automatically cuts to like some Trump footage, and he's just like, no, we have everything under control, and then it just cuts back to like zombies ripping out all these people's organs.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it's just so well done. I was cracking up the whole time. The Corona Task Force is just like the zombie team.
That's horrific. What the hell's his name? Charles
Band.
Yeah, that owns the company. Yeah.
Yeah. He did all the Puppet Master movies. He did TerrorVision. He did all kinds of good movies in the 80s.
If you grew up in the 80s, you knew what Puppet Masters were. I mean, it was it was on track as like a Freddy Krueger type of movie. It was like that popular. It wasn't like an underground deal.
Yeah.
But speaking of zombie movies and bad movies in general, and my wife trying to throw away my Subspecies collection, her favorite friggin' movie is this disturbingly bad Night of the Comet.
Oh, I love Night of the Comet.
Oh, Jesus. Everyone said she keeps trying to get me to watch it. Like I'm getting guilt tripped, if I don't like watch it every couple of years or every third year or something with it. I can never watch that movie again. So the way I get out of it is I say, if I watch this with you, then you've got to watch Subspecies with me and not be playing on your phone. Actually watch.
Yeah.
The movie.
Yeah. Oh, you just got to meet halfway and watch Night of the Creeps.
my God. You know what? If it's anything like Night of the Comet, I gotta check out.
Oh,
I just
dude,
gotta.
Night of the Creeps is a great one. That was made by the guys who wrote the Monster Squad and like did the House movies, and it's basically like
Oh, I love the house movies.
yeah, it's basically like an ode to 1950s 1950s like style B movies, but it's basically but it takes place in the 80s. So like a good portion of it's like back in the 50s, so they kind of like jump back and forth. But like it's
Oh,
essentially this like alien worm crashes onto a college campus and just starts like infecting zombies. So you have like this the cop. Oh, what was his name? He's the main character from Halloween 3. You know, the guy with the mustache, Ted Atkins? No.
oh hell, I can't even remember.
You know what I'm talking about though,
I
right?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it's just like him and some co-eds like blasting zombies with shotguns and flamethrowers.
Co-eds are half dressed, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
it
yeah.
everyone's
True
wearing
80s film.
Hawaiian shirts, you know what I mean? Like it's definitely like, your
Oh my
80s like
God.
frat movie meets zombies. Like it's a gem. I recommend it.
Oh my God.
Oh, but we are getting to the end of the show.
Sure.
Definitely, we just go on talking all night for sure. But I definitely want to. I'm gonna have to get you on again just because
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah.
we can goof off and talk about movies. But the newest book that you had that came out, just to remind folks, is Surviving Reality. This is not the show, and that's available on Amazon, correct?
It is, yeah. And if you're a fan of the show, it was written essentially for the Comic Con crowd,
Oh
so
yeah.
so that they would have the background. Because I mean that's basically where I sold the most copies. Whereas when I'm sitting down in front of get to talk to them about the craziness behind the scenes, and then they just grab a copy and.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I don't know if there's any particular social media handle you prefer folks to reach out to you at. Do you prefer Facebook, Twitter?
I don't do so much on Twitter. I try. Um,
Twitter's such a
um,
cesspool. I can't do it.
it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I
I'm
think everyone just tweets, and I don't understand. No one else is reading them. It was like, so
yeah. I'm on there,
Instagram.
but whenever I'm on Twitter, I'm usually just like trying to bug Joe Bob Briggs, just because I know the guy probably doesn't like answer his own Twitter reports. But I'll just tag him in weird pictures just because.
No, for me, it's definitely Facebook. Instagram's another one.
I like Instagram
I
as
just
well.
set up a TikTok account, so I've got all these little goofy ass videos going. One that went viral already. I don't even know how the hell.
Really?
It doesn't make any sense why that video went viral. But like in an afternoon, we went from like 0 to I think it was 40. It was 420,000 views. I was just like, what the
Wow.
hell? There is nothing that makes any sense in that video. Why it would go viral?
Yeah,
And I have yet
that
to.
is what makes a perfect TikTok video. It doesn't have to make sense.
Oh my God! And you know what? I try to replicate it. It's not happening. So I don't I don't know what the hell happened. It was just my day, I guess. I don't know.
Have you ever gotten on YouTube, do like tutorials and stuff?
I do. They're old. I've been actually trying to update that. The problem is a lot of the tutorials that I want to do for YouTube also conflict with the classes I teach, and they conflict with the books
Ah,
that I'm selling. So essentially, I'm giving away information that I would normally be trying to, because I'm an independent guy. I make indie projects out the yin yang.
yeah.
That's how I make my living is off my indie stuff, and so I would be cutting my own throat. So I'm trying to figure out how I can make that work. I do have a YouTube account. It's just Escape Design. Just look up Escape Design Effects, and it'll pop up. There's some older videos in there from when my career was first getting started and stuff, and I was working out of my garage. you know, it's but yeah, YouTube, but mainly Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and stuff.
Awesome. Well, then, folks, definitely check out his book, and then probably the book that I'm going to be picking up from him is going to be his how-to series. What was the first few of those? Just so
Oh,
you can
so
plug it real quick.
we've got a couple of them. One of them, there's three of them. latex mask making. It's a workshop with Russ Adams. Then we got like creature fur and hair. They all basically look the same, just different
Yeah.
titles. I wanted them to look like the series. And then
Yeah.
there was, Shrunken Heads. It's another workshop. And
Oh,
I've got,
that's the one I'm definitely going to get because I actually just got in. I was telling you before, I just got into making some props, and the first thing I did was make a series of shrunken heads. And I really want to know how to start getting like individual hairs and stuff in there.
oh, and I actually go over that. I mean,
Yeah.
I teach you how to make your own tools, so you don't have to buy them.
Mhm.
The only thing you have to buy is materials, but other than that, the tools and stuff, I teach you all that stuff in the book, so you don't have to worry about. I even tell you how to find hair. If
Yeah.
you don't have any hair, like you got a wig laying around or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? I ended up, making mine out of like clay and paint and, doing the usual thing. But I'd found a walkthrough on how to actually make shrunken heads with fat trimmed off a ham hock and like bags of sand. So like they
Oh
really
yeah.
had some cool instructions out there.
Well, and even in the book, I tell you how they actually shrunk heads, so
Yeah.
that you could you
Oh,
understand
that's
why a
cool.
shrunken head looks the way it does.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so this and it's a latex mask. Essentially, it's just a tiny latex mask,
Oh, that's cool.
and you can rip out multiple copies and and do different things with them and sell them. I mean, I fully support, hey, listen, you've learned how to do something, try to get your money back from the book. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that book is our most expensive how-to book, and I think it's like 15.99. you know
Worth it
um
though, because I don't know, man. I would love to be I'd love to see you put out a book as well on just like the intricacies of sculpting, because that's the first thing a lot of people need to learn how to do. They want to get into building props and the such. And I mean, sculpting, there's just so many different tricks that you can smooth stuff out, make wrinkles more pronounced without having to just cut them in there.
oh, exactly. And to be honest, like, that book, I actually teach you how to sculpt it. So I go over
Awesome.
sculpting techniques and all kinds of stuff, so that
Yeah.
every one book is a full lesson by itself. It's
Right,
not going to
right.
bleed into another. But we've got how to make action figures coming out. We've got another one,
Oh, that'd be
how to,
cool.
how to make your own armatures, and then there's another one on silicone mask making. So
Yeah,
those are the three that are still kind of being like edited and stuff like that. So
yeah.
hopefully, with any luck, they'll come out soon. So there'll be some additions to these guys. But
Man,
yeah,
that is going to be so cool. I particularly the action figures one because that's one of the things that I've always found super interesting is how you can actually make like workable action figures. I mean, even the old like turtles figures, most of the time they were only just like, seven pieces. You just had the limbs and like the body pieces that snap together. But if you
yeah,
look at like the evolution of toys to where you get stuff like, McFarlane toys, I mean, just the amount of detail that goes into some of them is
oh yeah,
breathtaking.
it's amazing. And the one thing I want to try to avoid, or that I did avoid in that book, was shopping that stuff out to a foreign country to have them mass produced.
Yeah.
It's more important that you know how to mold them and cast those pieces so that you can make as many as you can,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
hopefully take them. Hopefully, I'd like to see you at a Comic-Con selling your wares, from the book that you learned, all the stuff from my book. So I mean, that's the whole goal, is to the next generation, because I had to learn all this stuff, you know the old school way, like trial and error. And I can't
mhm,
tell you how many tens of thousands of friggin' dollars I set fire to in the process of learning all this stuff. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
in the 80s, there was no YouTube, there was no Google. I mean, I used to have to sit over a Fangoria magazine or something like that, well, in hopes of seeing a picture of a half created creature in the process of being, so that I can figure out how the things were made. So that's
yeah,
basically how I learned. So I don't want to have to see anyone else go through that. I mean, now there's all these opportunities for them to learn different things, but at the same time, having them all condensed into one space, with references. Hey, go here if you need to buy this material. It's the best place I know to get it. Because I'm also a big fan of not screwing artists,
Mhm.
which is why I teach people how to make their own tools. You're not
Yeah.
going to sculpt any better with a tool by another artist with their signature on it than you would if you made the damn thing yourself with a grinder and a piece of wood you found on the ground. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially so.
Oh, awesome. Well, that is the how-to series, folks. I'm definitely be picking up one of the Shrunken Head books, and I'm actually going to probably keep an eye out for the action figure one as well, because, I mean, that stuff's just so interesting. But definitely find him on Facebook. That'd be Escape Design FX Studio. Like him on Instagram. And, if you like, since you're on Instagram, definitely check out this page. I'm gonna just go ahead and promote it because he's a friend of a friend. It's called Death by Toys. He he makes all these like weird like little action figures. Like he's the guy who did the guy who got shot in the dick by RoboCop. And he does like the replica figures, for like movie characters that aren't licensed. And man, he's just got
That's
some
great.
great stuff on there. I get a laugh every single day.
That's fantastic. I'll have to check that out. I follow a lot of toy makers and people who have just they'll kind of what they call I can't even remember the damn term now, but they'll just grab a mold kit and just start putting things together.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are the best. Because that reminds me of being a kid, taking parts of broken toys to make one toy that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I would do that with the the hot glue gun quite a bit. Didn't get much movement on the limbs, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, right?
I know this is I know we're trying to wrap up and everything, but in the hot glue thing, I found a guy who will teach you how to add some food coloring to a hot glue stick and use it as an injection mold. So you're
What?
injecting hot glue into the silicone mold to make your toy parts, and
What?
they're rigid enough that they actually work and turn and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So, dude, with creativity, man, take your hot glue gun, make some damn toys. I'm telling you, like if you get that silicone mold made and you just squeeze that damn glue in there until I bet you come up with some cool shit.
Man. So at the end of the day, what I really got to get into is start learning how to do some molding.
Molding is key, man. I mean, once you create a really cool sculpture, I mean, it's almost it goes to waste unless you can mold it. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if it's a clay sculpture.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always mold everything I care about, including this monster right here. I don't even see.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
It's like
Croc.
part crocodile, but part man at the same time.
Yeah, it's just it was a version of Killer Croc I saw somebody built, and I had
That's
to have
cool.
one of my own. So
That's one Batman character that I'm so disappointed they haven't brought into the live. I mean, I guess the Killer Croc that they had in Suicide Squad was live action. I mean,
that was so
CGI, but no, I would love to see him in like a serious Batman movie to where you like use his background accordingly. He's the carny freak, but do it with all like old school prosthetics and practical effects. I mean, he
it
would
would
look
be cool.
dope, man.
See, and that's what this is actually a mask. So it's a wearable. It's probably my most expensive mask because all the scales and stuff were hand carved out of upholstery foam.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, I don't know if you can pan back over here real quick, but yeah, his muscles are squishy.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a mask. So this part is latex mask. You actually look through these pits under his throat.
Yeah.
So you're essentially, your head is like right about in here, and then he's that much taller. But kind of the same deal we got with Bigfoot there.
Oh, he's definitely got a Harry and the Hendersons vibe to him. I love it.
Yeah, we couldn't legally say that, so we say he's like a cousin of
Yeah.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, he's Barry.
Distant cousins.
He's Barry and the Hendersons.
Larry and Larry or Barry.
Larry.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Gary and the Gundersons. It's a reboot, but it isn't.
That would be a fun remake. Now that you say that, yeah, that would be. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, even if you didn't like, do like, a hard reboot, as long as you still had John Lithgow in there somewhere, even if it was just a cameo, I would, oh man, I would love to see that flick. I
That
mean,
would be
I don't know, there's a lot
fantastic.
of good 80s comedies that could definitely be remade if they were done tastefully.
Him and his whole family moved to the mountains, and they just live in the mountains in isolation so they can hang out with Harry and the crew.
Oh man, actually, it's what's super weird. I actually had a guest on, uh, God, probably about 5 or 6 episodes back, who's like a Bigfoot hunter, and
Oh,
oh yeah, he's a serious crypto guy. He's got a website and everything. But he was actually talking about how he was tracking all these reports of like gangs of Bigfoot, like abducting people, like so they'd actually
wow.
like start kidnapping people or like like interactively as a group like go and raid like different homes and like take stuff. Like I assume whiskey would be at the top of the bill because you're just a bunch of Bigfoot hanging out in the woods. Like what else are you gonna do all day?
No shit, you're gonna drink and have sex and do
Yeah,
drugs. That's amazing.
that's what I'm saying, man. But all right, we're gonna rant off and start talking about Bigfoot for a while.
You know what?
But
Part two.
yeah, part two. Yeah, definitely. Once I start actually doing some stuff, I'll need to have you on again. We can actually talk about
Yeah.
some of the more practical applications and what some folks can actually do at home because,
Oh
with
yeah.
cosplay on the rise, man, more people are going to be interested in making props. And now that people have the means to do it, I mean, there's just going to be so much cool stuff coming out. And, the more we promote that kind of stuff, the more people are going to be there to appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a whole new wave of maker coming out, and you know, people are sick of stuff coming out of China and stuff. The quality is not always there, and especially like in the toy world. I mean, that is an
Yeah.
entire. I mean, how cool! I mean, every kid wants to grow up to be a toy maker. I mean, of some form. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm
absolutely.
down. Yeah, let me know, and we'll talk. We'll talk about toys and Halloween props always sort of sadden me a little bit. So I try to avoid those conversations. But even then, I mean, you've got the cosplay world, and everyone wants to make their own stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah, my next project as far as props go is I was going to do it this year, which is why I made the Fiji Mermaid and the Shrunken Heads. But with all the music festivals being canceled, I'm part of an art collective, and one of the things that we do is we'll go and like set up like galleries at these festivals, so people can come, look at paintings, stuff like that. We got fire performers and stuff with us. But the one thing I wanted to do was set up like an old 1800s era oddities gallery, right?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so like do like the shrunken heads. You can. I actually found this company out of China, unfortunately, that actually builds like life-size mermaid skeletons. So I was just gonna put a bunch of shrink wrap on it, corpse it down.
Yeah,
Actually,
old
get
school skin it. Yeah.
yeah, and do it up that way. But like, that was my plan is to actually do like this side gallery that's just an old tent, a canvas tent, but it looks like something that would be from like the 1860s. You just have like a bunch of goofy stuff in there, like you can have like a mummified hand, or I got to figure out a way to like to mold my ear, but I want to do the mummified ear of Vincent Van Gogh.
Nice. That would be. Oh, that would be a gnarly shriveled up. Yeah, that would be
You
cool.
know what I mean? All right, folks, but we will get out of here. This has been Russ Adams, and just to go ahead, say it one more time. Give him a like, give him a follow at Escape Design FX Studios, and check out his books. This Is Not That Show, and the newest one, Surviving Reality. This Is Not That Show. All books available on Amazon. Good night, folks.